Today is Monday, September 16th, 5 o'clock. The BEDC has now been called into session. At this time, do we have any public comments? We're going to do a little bit of rearranging on the agenda tonight to have the opportunity to hear from Mr. Crouch first. We appreciate you coming in and thought you ought to just kick us off with your update on 921 Main Street building, and it's all yours. Sure we can. Mayor Schrader? Jeff Hideo? Sam Kerr?
Here.
Catherine Nash? Here. Ron Spencer? Here. Pat Crawford?
Here.
Thank you.
Oh, they have my slideshow. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you guys for letting me help manage your project. So it was a big deal for me to be able to do that for you. So we'll get it through and get you a nice project built at the end of the day. So thank you very much for considering me for doing this for you. I made a slideshow presentation, so it's going to be kind of the same thing each month when I come up here and give you your update. So you can kind of, if this format's okay with you guys, that's what I want to kind of follow. This is just a cover page of what it is going to look like when you're finished with it at the end of the day. And you just kind of flip through them. Oh, I've got it? Great. I've got to chew gum and talk at the same time. When I started the project, I asked Jean what her top three priorities were for the project, and they're always on time, on budget, within cost. So that's what two of the things were on this. The third one was communication. Going to have really good communication between BEDC, the contractor, the neighbors, and everybody else within that block as the construction is going on, because there's going to be some early morning concrete pours, there's going to be some early morning steel deliveries and things like that. And then as the people get shut off from parking spots with deliveries and stuff, we need to communicate that to the neighbors. And there's a plan in place for the superintendent to have direct correspondence with them and let them know at least 2 weeks ahead of time when those things are going to happen. So I think that'll be a huge deal with having everybody like the project. If you're building it and you have negative impact on people, then they'll view the job as a negative thing. So I think just more communication, the better on this project. The permit status, just to kind of give you an update on where we're at with the building permit, or where they're at with the building permit. It's going to be divided up into phases. There's going to be a demolition phase, a building shell phase, which will be just a perimeter of the building, no interior walls or anything, and then there will be a tenant improvement piece of it, which they'll go in and put all the walls and the light fixtures and things and stuff in. So those are the three phases of the permit. The city's allowing us, we think, to turn in a demolition plan, so we can start some of the concrete removal and things like that prior to the building permit being done, so we don't have to wait the entire time. We can actually do some construction while we're waiting for the building permit to be done. So hopefully that gets through and we can start on that and they can get started on the work outside. There was an office trailer permit that needs to be applied for. There's a right-of-way sidewalk permit for the front, so that if we encroach on the sidewalk on the front path, there'll have to be a covered walkway made so that the people in the front can get passed through without being in the way of the construction, and make it safe for everybody out in the front. And then a tenant improvement application would be the last thing. As soon as we get all the documents for the tenant improvement, as far as their floor plan approved, the light fixture layout approved, the interior removable walls and things that they're looking at on the inside, as soon as all those things are finalized, and we can turn that piece of it in, but that can be delayed several months getting drawn. So the building shell will be going on in that time frame. So that really won't be a hindrance to the job at all, as far as having that piece of it at the end, because that's when all the sheetrock and stuff will be being installed anyway. So that will be a little bit later. The design status. Hopefully the design's going to be complete within 30 days. This is probably at least a week old. I think I made this a week ago, so it's supposed to be through the end of August, but I think we're a little further than that now with the design piece of it. Really, it's complete for the shell, where we can go ahead and turn that piece of it in, I think. The geotechnical aspect of it, there was a question at the beginning a couple of weeks ago whether we wanted to keep the existing slab that's in place now or have it removed, which the original geotechnical report called for removal of the entire slab, excavation or over excavation of 3 feet below the ground, and take all that dirt out and then replace it with new fill. We really thought that was intrusive, and with the condition of the exterior walls of the adjacent buildings, didn't really want to have to go through that process and the vibration of putting all that soil back in place. So we asked for a supplemental letter from the geotechnical firm, and they gave us one saying we could leave the slab in place and just do select demolition of the concrete underneath where the piers and footings need to be. So that was a big thing, I think, because we really don't want to cause any more or present any more damage to the exterior walls of the existing buildings that's there already. So that was a big help, I think, by getting that supplemental letter. And then they did stamp and seal it, so it's a good letter for us. The testing, there was some asbestos testing that had to be done for the demolition of the outside wall, or the back wall that's there, had to be done. There was no asbestos found, so that was another good thing. My interpretation of the materials testing for the job, so there still needs to be some soils testing done when they excavate for the foundation and the piers. You have to test that soil that you can't really get access to right now. And there's going to be some structural steel testing required by the city as you're building it. So there's those things I think are encapsulated within a contract with the general contractor. He doesn't think so, so we'll have a discussion as far as where that falls, as far as who's paying for it, but I think it's really clear as far as that it was included in his contract. So. And then we did get 2 bids from Terracon and from Capital Testing, so we do have bids for that. One was double the other, so I think the cost for $9,000 and $18,000. So we do have some cost for the range of testing that you may need. So it wouldn't hurt to have that set aside for the testing, but I really feel like it's in their contract already. I put in there that it's recommended that a structural engineer review the current conditions of the interior walls of the 2 adjacent buildings. If you haven't been into those buildings, there's some pretty severe deterioration of the brick on those buildings, and at a minimum, I think we need to notify those owners and let them know that there's a problem with those, and they at least need to be repaired or pointed up, and that could be on their cost, I think. I'm not sure exactly where, maybe your Cameron, I think, right? Where the dividing line from property to property is. I'm not sure if it falls in between 2 layers of brick or if it's on the inside, but I would recommend getting the walls repaired at some point. I talked to the geotechnical, they've got a historical preservation side to their firm, and I talked to them this morning, and they don't think that there's anything that we really need to do for the construction right now when we're taking these the concrete and stuff out. So I think we're covered for that. But I just think that at the end of the day that we at least need to say, hey, we've uncovered some damage, which is real obvious if you just look at the wall, and recommendation that you make a repair, to your walls. Yes.
Those walls, are they 2 bricks thick?
They are. 1? So they are 2 bricks thick, side by side, and then. At various locations, they have another brick turned crossways in them, so it kind of ties the 2 walls together. Okay. The exterior wall's been shotcrete over the top of the exterior wall, so you can't really see the deterioration of those anymore, but you can see it on the inside wall still. It's still real obvious. So I'm not sure if the shotcrete helped us. It definitely helped as far as moisture penetration from rain going inside, but I don't know that it helped us a whole lot structurally with those walls. So, and then after talking to the tester today, he felt the same way, so I don't know if he did any good on the structural side of it, but from the moisture getting inside, you definitely, help that from rain and stuff, penetration coming inside there.
What's involved in repairing?
that type of damage?
Some of it's severe enough you have to find some replacement brick, which there's a lot of old red clay brick around. I'm sure they can find some to repair, but a mason would have to come in and remove the brick that are damaged and then repair, put a new brick in its place. So some of the places were small. Some of them were, 3 feet by 3 feet wide. If you ever ate in the 921 main or the 902 main, you can see the deteriorated brick on those walls right when you walk in the door. So it's not a structural problem, but I would at least put a recommendation to those owners and just say, I think you should repair your walls.
If we did nothing to the exterior walls or the interior walls of the sites on either side of us, would the sheer act of constructing this building actually impact those two buildings? Would it cause further damage? Is this something that we're just looking at as it's a nice to have, it's a good thing to talk about, or do we actually need to remediate those two sides, one on each side? Because you're talking about delays and cost overruns already, because that's not in the budget and it's not in the project scale.
Yeah, I think that from a structural standpoint, I believe that this building's self-supported, self-standing, so there's no structural impact. If you built this building, you can build it, never affect those walls. It'll actually help because it'll keep the rain even off of the building more, which those walls weren't ever designed to get wet. And then with the flashing on the top of the roof right now, the way the flashing is, or was, just allowed for water to penetrate that red clay brick, and then that's the worst thing you can do is introduce moisture to that type of brick. So I think you've solved temporarily some of the problems. You'll solve it permanently when this building's done, and there's nothing you really need to do from your point, being the owner of this new building. And like I said, I don't know where you decide where the property boundary is, if it's in between that two layers of bricks or if it's all the way into it, or it's just, I can't say where you're going to.
It kind of leads me to, it sounds like we might have a decision point coming up on what route we want to go. Do we want to look at remediation? Do we want to look at, yes or no? And then we have to look at the cost and the time frame associated.
I think we got to back off a little bit, because the remediation was why we put the shotcrete on our interior walls. So there's a legal decision about where the property line is. There's a good neighbor discussion, but what I'm the most interested in, Cameron, is I think it's important that we document the state of the inside of both of those walls prior to construction starting, because what we don't want is to have unhappy neighbors later that say everything was wonderful till you started building your building. So and we want to be good neighbors, and perhaps those buildings, if it's not a structural issue and it's more of an aesthetic issue, they may even be able to apply for a grant for preservation, and we help them that way. There's more than one way. There's one of our neighbors now. There's more than one way to skin the cat, but I just don't want us to jump and start talking about words like remediation. And one comment I wanted to make sure is, Gene, that Jimmy has a copy of the original report that we got from the structural engineer. It is my understanding from reading the report, that shotcrete was never intended for structural help. It was intended to stop the moisture. That was the intent of the shotcrete. Ooh, and even our neighbor agrees. So I think we're all on the same page with that, but I do think it's important to document the state of the interior of the interior of the neighbor's walls prior to us starting construction.
Yeah, and there's, I've taken a lot of photos just from when I've been involved with it, so I know from at least that point forward we'll have a lot of documentation for it, and I'm not sure what all there is prior to that. We can look at the reports, and the geotechnical report mentions it, but I think it's just aesthetics at this point from everything I've read. So I just think at the end of the day, you should at least make a recommendation and say, aesthetically, you should look at your.
So Fallon, I'd
interior
like
wall.
staff to, because I know we've done grants for things before, and I want to follow the letter of the line of the law, but if the recommendation is, even though it's aesthetically an issue, if we've given grants for other things and it's preservation and it's our downtown, we can tell our neighbors, hey, by the way, we think you ought to fix your wall, and we're able to help out X amount of dollars or whatever. But we need to have a dividing line, Cameron, between our project and not our project, in my opinion.
And then as far as the structural significance of it, everything I've read, you're fine with that. And this is a self-standing building. It really has won't have any impact on the two adjacent buildings. This slide's just some renderings of the front and back of the proposed building. I put these in there. This is the latest ones that have come out, so I just put this in there so you can kind of get an idea what the front and back would look like. It's just a lot better than it is right now. I think it's real attractive. One of the things too that they're looking at is extending the balcony on that second story out some, and it's kind of it's proposed. It's not etched in stone, but it would be nice to have that balcony up on the second story to watch the parade on or do whatever. So it's working in line with the Main Street improvements too, as far as the width of the sidewalk and all of that. So this could be the first building with new Main Street improvements on it, and then have a little balcony out where the mayor can sit and watch the parade. And this is just a floor plan. You can see there's nothing really proposed for it. It's just a shell. So this would be the shell part of the building. It's just got I don't know if this pointer works. No. There's a front stair. So the stair at the bottom of the page is from the front door. There's a stair at the back of the building too. You can see that at the very back right is just for the back access. You have to have two access from the front and back of the building for first and second floor, and then just a pod of bathrooms. There's 2 bathrooms each floor right now. There's some discussion to add a third so that you can increase occupancy to 600 people. If you add 1 bathroom on each floor, you can add up to 600 people, which may give you more lease options either now or down the road if you have that. So I think the recommendation for that would be to add that third bathroom, because the cost was $8,600, I think. So for that, would be a good benefit, maybe for the future for leasing. The budget originally was $1.8 million. We haven't had any change orders, so this would be the best meeting for change orders ever, probably. There really hadn't been any submitted. Maybe the first one would be the bathroom ad, but and we're through pay application number 3, and that was in the amount of $49,000. So there hasn't been a whole lot. I think total of approximately $150,000 has gone out, and it's all pre-construction work. The change request, change order log, I'll include this so you can kind of get an idea of the change orders or change requests. There's been nothing on there, so again, it's real simple. First meeting's always the easiest one because there's nothing in there, and hopefully it stays like that, but I wouldn't count on it. The procurement, the long lead items that they're trying to lock down right now so we don't get delayed in the schedule, because we do have a really tight schedule, is the structural steel, the elevator, the electrical switch gear is a long lead item. Some of the lighting, the storefront interior doors are always the longest things it takes to come in, so they're trying to order all that stuff now and get that buttoned up so they don't have a problem waiting on materials to come in later. The schedule, just a bullet point schedule, September 10th through 16th, we're going to try to mobilize to the site, or the contractor was. They didn't do that. They've been to the site, but they haven't mobilized because of the demolition permits delayed. So as soon as the demolition permit's set up, then they can mobilize and move our little office trailer over there, and I think that's probably going to be another week before they can do that. Again, September 25th, this was written a couple weeks ago, so that was the proposed demolition date. It'll probably be bumped a week, I think. And then September 24th for design to be complete, October 9th for the full building permit to be issued. So, and that will probably bump a week too. November 6th was for steel erection to start, January 28th for the roof to be dried in, and June 30th for the projected substantial completion where they could actually go and fixture. And we're trying to move that up by 2 weeks to the 15th, so that they can actually be moved into it by the end of June. So you'll see a lot of the dates will kind of shuffle around as you're in the construction, depending on weather and how everything falls in, but the end date cannot change on this. We still have to keep that.
How much time do you have in that schedule for things like that? Weather,
There's
things like that.
To me, there's a lot of things that you can overlap, and there's some fluff built into the schedule that I can see in there. So I don't see that you have any issue at all hitting your June 15th completion date, and general contractor didn't think so either. This was the initial schedule, so that's what I based this report on, was the initial schedule, and then we'll get monthly updates with the contractor. So he'll be updating us monthly where we're at, and really he'll update us weekly in the weekly meetings with any slides that he has in schedule or things that he makes up in schedule. But I don't really see, he had plenty of room for all of his activities. I don't see the schedule being an issue.
And who's working with the city on the permits and stuff? Are you part of that?
It's a group effort. Yeah, I'm sticking my nose in to that a little bit, just because I know some of them, and really the general contractor's been, he's the one that's applying for the permit, so he's the one that's doing all the legwork and stuff on it. But any way that I can help, if there's anything I can do to help, move that process along, then we're doing that. And the city's been great so far as helping us through the permit process, taking the applications, giving us a heads up as to what they need next. So they've been really good with that.
Turns out I know some folks there, and they did their pre-construction meeting. Linda's saying, let me know if there's anything that you need. She understands that them issuing a permit, unless the contractor doesn't turn something in, it's not going to be waiting on the city side. So
I think having a permitting stage the way that it's staged is going to help out a whole lot, because they can start with certain pieces of it and then do some of the work now, which would be a big help if they can get some of their footings and stuff in below the ground that you can't see and get all that work done, and then just help out the process. So I think I can just see them picking up time versus losing.
So they're going to use the existing cement that's there on the foundation.
They're going to
drill holes in it to put in footings for the next layer of cement. Is that kind of?
There'll be a 4-inch topping slab on top of that slab that's there now, and it will be structurally reinforced. But you won't see that slab. The only problem with doing that typically is if there's a crack in the slab below, it usually telegraphs to the slab on top. So if you have a crack in that slab, it'll come through the slab that's above it. That slab's really in good shape though, and then concrete cracks. That's one thing that's a given. Is concrete's going to crack.
My understanding is that first floor is going to be just stained concrete, and one man's crack is another man's character, and they're fine with the cracks in the concrete floor. And if we come to a time where for some reason at some day there's a different tenant, you can always slap something down on top of that concrete. But my understanding, Jimmy, from the last meeting that we were in, was the intentional finish is a stained concrete.
Yeah.
And they're more than happy. Everybody understands concrete cracks.
Yeah. And you can cut it in 15 by 15 foot sections, so you can kind of control your cracking. And if the smaller squares you cut it in, if you cut it in 10 by 10 or 12 by 12, then you even have a lesser chance for it to crack. So I think you can.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned footings, and I was just trying to figure out where the footings go.
They go underneath the columns that are going to be supporting the steel structure on the outside, and then there's a spread footing for the masonry work that's going to be on there too. So it'll be around the perimeter of the building mainly, and then a few spot footings in the middle of the building, just for the columns to hold up the building. And since the building's wide open, you'll see them. They'll be exposed on the inside, so there won't be a wall, encapsulating the columns. You'll see all of them. The construction activities, what I tried to do, and if you guys don't know what the divisions are in construction, There's 50-something divisions now. They've changed the code, but I kept this one to 16 divisions. Division 1 is just kind of general requirements. It's all of your job trailer and stuff like that, the setup. And so that's how I've got this broken out, so you can kind of see the different activities in each category. Division 2 is all of your site work. And so the only thing that's happening right now, or is proposed to be happening, is the site demolition. And then the utility locates on the outside have all been done. So the city and all the utilities have gone out and marked all the utility lines at the back of the property so you can see all of that. There's some stormwater prevention stuff that's going to have to happen in the next couple of weeks, so maybe a little silt fence or something just to capture whatever dirt that is at the back of the property or front so it doesn't run out into the storm drain. And then I put Division 3, which is concrete. I just mentioned that the layer of shotcrete's already been added to the outside of the building. And then Division 4, masonry, is just possible masonry repairs on the inside of those existing buildings. And then these are all blank because we haven't done anything on them yet, but that's the layout of them. So each one of these things will have something on it by the end of the project, so we can update that for you. Request for information, or RFIs, we don't really have any yet. We'll get some as we're going through the process, and then I'll just give you a bullet point information on what we've seen in the drawings that we have to ask questions on. And then submittals, we don't really have any submittals yet. So the contractor should be giving us submittals for every piece of equipment that's going in or on the building. And so we don't have any of those yet because we just are getting started again. Critical ones that would be coming up would be concrete, the reinforcing steel, the structural steel, the elevator submittals, and anything that's going underground as far as plumbing, drains, that type of thing. So we'll review all that, all those items for you as we're going to make sure that they match the specification, or like the elevator, the cab of the elevator matches what you guys want for the finishes of the cab. So as we're going through the process, we'll be reviewing all those things too. Project photos. I found this old photo of what the building used to look like. I thought it was pretty neat because I'd never seen it. It's always been a hole there for me, or I can't remember it ever being a building. So I put a couple of project photos. That's a couple of pictures of the brick before it was had the shotcrete put on it, and then the lower pictures of the brick with the shotcrete on it. Definitely was a help as far as the water intrusion, I think. And then this is at the back of the property what it looks like a couple of weeks ago. And then the transformers, they've been designing the electrical service, and I think we've got exactly what we need as far as electrical service, unless you want to plan for maybe a bigger tenant with larger electrical needs.
Originally, we thought that the issue would be on placement of that electrical service. Does it have to move?
They don't. No, they won't have to move. And the city did a really good job, too, as far as knowing that this was coming up, and when they paved the parking lot in the back, of cutting and capping the existing utilities so that they'd be available. So kudos to them for doing that. They did a good job on that. Just some more pictures. This is of the restaurant on the right side, some of the brick that we were talking about a while ago. So I would recommend have them repaired. Structurally, it's not doing anything. Aesthetically, maybe it has some character in it, but maybe a little too much character. Yeah. Up until, I was more worried about it when I just walked in and saw it and didn't realize the construction of the outside wall. And now that I know that there's 2 layers of brick there with brick turned sideways occasionally, not as quite as concerned as it was when we first started, but aesthetically I think it would be better. The upcoming highlights, this is the last slide, so just to get the design documents completed, to get the demolition permit issued. They'll be mobilizing and starting all the construction activities really quick here, and then just select demolition of that slab. So they will go in and cut some of the existing slab and start filling that with concrete for the structural steel. So that's the upcoming highlights for next month. And if this format's okay with you guys, then I'll just keep that, and it'll go a little quicker, I hope. The second one.
I was just about to say, I really like the format, and I appreciate getting the detail and knowing where we are.
Okay.
We got this. It'll be great.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would like to see is, I don't know, if there's a place or a chart that you can show us that, like, when we know we're getting in trouble.
As far as schedule?
Uh-huh.
That schedule, I did ask them to provide me one with 2 bars on it, so it'll have a bar for the task, so like your concrete activities, and the baseline for that activity, and then it'll have a second bar on that one to show you if you're ahead of schedule or behind schedule off your original task. So I did ask them for that, so we'll see that on the next slide too. You'll be able to tell just by the shading of the bar if it's ahead of schedule or behind schedule, or might be right on schedule. But we'll have that in the next one. I'll make a whole slide.
I, for one, cannot wait.
So, Sam, would you feel more comfortable if you also saw that bar graph on expenses as they're added to different completion pieces of the, so that might be an additional kind of keeping an eye on if you see something.
Okay. Yeah, I can add that. That's not a problem. Whatever you guys want. It's real easy to do at this point.
Jimmy, I just want to thank you for submitting a proposal on it. To have somebody in the community concerned about the building and the building progress, and especially someone with your background and qualifications, I really appreciate you being on the project.
I'm happy to do it. Thank you for asking me. I love to do stuff with the city because I live here, a couple of blocks from the place. So anything that I can do to help out, then I'm happy to do it.
Very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to 3.1, approval of meeting minutes from the Bastrop EDC regular board meeting of August 19th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve those minutes of August, or last month's minutes.
And a second?
I second.
All those approve?
Aye.
And those opposed? And it passes. Moving to 3.2, acceptance of the Bastrop EDC's financial summary reports for periods ending July 31st, 2019. Note, August 31st, 2019 financials had not been provided at the time this packet was prepared. Yes.
Hello, everyone. So the variance, the monthly variance, as you can see in July, is $322,002. In June, it was $65,260. These variances are attributed to bond payments and Agnes Street construction work. For the summary of sales tax revenues, several taxpayers paid in June, so the actual amounts are a little bit higher, and that's why you see a negative amount in July. So we've spent less money in July than we had projected. We have a positive variance for contractual services and marketing and advertising. Additionally, several projects have not yet seen expenses. So this is where we are for the expenditures, budget to actual. For FY 2019, our actual, we're at $1,211,882. The budget balance is $1,652,802, excuse me. And so we haven't seen many expenses yet for MOK and the trail system downtown. So this hasn't changed. The projected ending gross fund balance as of September 30th, 2019 is $2,713. And that will be the end of the financial summary.
Questions on the financial report? Sam, you okay?
Yep. Make a
Okay.
motion to accept the financials for July.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All those approve? And opposed? Passes. All right, let's go ahead and do consideration, discussion, and possible action on election of 2019-2020 BEDC officers, chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Open for discussion?
I'm good with the way things are.
I second that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Congratulations, officers.
No more discussion?
In all seriousness, I think the reason that there's an abundance of nothing needs to change is that you guys are really doing a great job. And Sam, with your background, knowing that you've taken a look at the numbers is just really valuable, I think, to the board. And I think Catherine and Kevin have done a great job. And Ron, I know you've jumped in on a couple of task force and committees. And y'all are just a pleasure to serve with. And I really appreciate the time that each and every one of you put into the board. With that, I make a motion that Catherine Nash is chair, that Kevin is vice chair, and that Sam serves as the secretary treasurer.
I second.
All those approve
Aye.
and opposed? And it passes. Three, such a good job, I lost my place. 3.5, consideration, discussion, and possible action on board meeting schedule for 2019-2020, including date and time of meetings. Love to see that. I think I think what you've done is recommended the same, probably.
Yes, we also recommended, I believe it's the third Monday of every month, 5 p.m., same time. And Kathy's also done a great job in scheduling this room for the next year through September of 2020. So thanks, Kathy. October 21st, November 18th, December 16th, January 27th. This was moved because of MLK Day. February was moved because of President's Day, so February will be on the 24th. And then the other dates are March 16th, April 20th, May 18th, June 15th, July 20th, August 17th, and September 21st.
Madam Chair, the only comment that I have, and Kevin, I don't have kids, but is March 16th in the middle of spring break for you? Do I need to call the person in your house who really knows this? Yeah, do you guys know? I didn't know if anybody's planning on being gone for spring break and if that causes a problem, because we've moved the other two, and that's the only, I just don't know. I can Google it.
Yeah, we're not good on scheduling that kind of stuff this far out, so.
March, it is the 14th through the 23rd.
So that.
The 23rd is the first day back.
So the March 16th date would be in the middle of spring break. So, Madam Chair, we might consider moving that by a week to give the Plunkett family at least an option of being gone for spring break.
Kevin, would you like an option to leave town?
Well, I hate to be the only reason this
It's 4 months
so,
out.
Yeah,
you know.
So it's fine. I'd be happy for y'all to do that, but I would not be
Kathy,
sad.
could you check and see if the room is available? 1 week out. One other thing, though, just to kind of put it on our radar, and Kathy, since you're the coordinator, master here of getting everybody, I know that as we begin to review with Garner and Associates, the work that they've been doing on a strategic plan, we're going to want to have a session with City Council and other audience members, and so we'll be looking for a date soon to coordinate that sort of meeting for that great presentation that they're going to be doing, okay? It might actually be on a Monday night, but who knows? It's a larger audience, and so we want to, you know.
I know there's a plan for a joint meeting with BEDC, so if y'all, between Fallon and Kathy, if you guys will just coordinate with, to your point, we'll get the room and when council's available as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. So what we need to do is have a motion to set those dates, I believe.
have a motion to accept the dates that were proposed with the exception of March 16th, that we look at seeing if the room is available on the 23rd, and that staff just send us the rooms, the meeting dates when they're finalized. And Ms. Merrifield, it's always awesome when we get a calendar entry, because then it shows up on our calendar and we don't double book ourselves. Some of us can do that. So that's my motion.
Second all of that.
Okay, all those approve? And opposed? And it passes. 3.6, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve Resolution R 2019-0021, authorizing a change to the BEDC's fiscal year 2018-19 budget and subsequent payment of an additional $6,187 to the city, bringing the total amount to $72,787 to be paid to the city of Bastrop for city projects and programs.
Excuse me, the three projects are Delgado Park parking lot, and that's in the amount of $56,696. There is also the Bob Bryant Park slide, and that amount is $10,248. And then last, we have the Jewel Hodges Park, and this is for new fencing, and that amount is for fencing, and the amount is $5,843. And we're joined by Tracy Waldron with the city, the CFO, to give us more details.
Okay, thank you.
I was just here to answer questions, but
Well, if you would like, I think, we did have quite a bit of information in our packet. We did bring it up at the last council meeting. Just maybe give us a brief summary of the history of where those charges, not necessarily the new ones, but kind of the history of how we made the arrangements of making those payments moving forward, and then the adjustments that you're seeing for this year, just to refresh our memory, and then I'm sure that we'll have some discussion, some questions for you.
okay. Well, I think it's a muddied history of how money has gone between the city and the Economic Development Corporation. In the past, there's been a much bigger transfer to the city for, we would, and I've been here 7 years, so we would have a parks truck vehicle the EDC would pay for that would replace a vehicle in the parks department. We had park employees that would maintain the two entrances that EDC used to pay for. So I think, I know within the last 3 years, that sort of changed, and we've gone to a shared services agreement, and also whatever administrative services that we're providing EDC, and the money that was set aside. I mean, I saw the packet, and I saw the memo or whatever that Sean Kirkpatrick had put together that was basically tiering those funds from EDC to the city over a period of time. I would hope that if we have eligible projects, we can have those identified and have those as part of your budget going forward, and that we're not just going to get to the zero on Sean's schedule and then the relationship is through. I realize y'all are following that schedule, but there's no legal basis for the schedule. The schedule was merely, tiering from the way we used to do it to the, to moving forward with the new process. So we had eligible projects. We did our research on what we've actually spent in the parks this year. These were eligible projects, so we're bringing those forward and asking for reimbursement for those projects. I know the $66,000 was in the budget, but I know there's also other funds in the budget, so that's why we're asking for the full $72,000.
Okay, if we could maybe go back and address why we were having those amounts from the $66,000 to the lower. So in other words, he put out a memo where the numbers would decrease for the next 3 years in order to address another concern, which was the money was not being spent in a correct category. Could someone please maybe address that? Because I think that's the basis for why those numbers were set up, and maybe if we can get to that and then understand if that might not have been the correct remedy, but it is a remedy that's in place, maybe discuss that, and then what do we do in the future to fix that? So
So
that
are
we
you
have this
asking
relationship.
EDC? Because I can't
think
answer
if-
that
if-
question.
If maybe Angela could give us the history, because I think that gets us to why there was ever that $66,000 slotted in.
Okay. So the history behind that is for many, many years, the EDC was paying for the mowing on the rights-of-way on Highway 71 as well as the entryway monuments. That was something that when they put in the overpass, the BEDC was committed to doing. When we got new legal counsel, 2.5 years ago or so, we were advised that that was not exactly the way we should be spending our money. So Sean came up with this solution, if you will, as a trade-off, so that it wouldn't be a sudden loss of almost $80,000 for the mowing.
And so that money was reallocated to do something else other than mowing?
Things that we are legally able to fund, such as parks. Yes, ma'am.
And do we have a breakdown of how say, for example, the $72,000 this year is spent? Is it on equipment in the parks? Is it on labor? Do we have any of that?
I mean, what she read out, I mean, the slides are the slides. I have one invoice. The fencing was a quote. I have the invoice. The parking lot was, I think, 3 different invoices, not city labor. These were all done by third parties, and they were all done in parks. I mean, there's no breakout. Those are the 3 projects.
Was there an accountability to last year's $83,250? Was there a report issued by the city of
We
where that
didn't
money
get
went?
the 82,000. Yeah.
Okay, I was just looking at the list.
Yeah, no, that is totally his
That was
tear
just a breakdown.
down
So
effect.
there was no money given in 2018?
Well, we agreed to the $66,000, so we've taken care of the $66,000. What's in question here is, are we going to pay that difference of $7,000?
$6,187.
Because, I mean, that's the question now. I mean, that's solving this problem. I think what we have to do is really sit down and find a way to work together to identify the projects that we want certainly to be a part of, as opposed to kind of hindsight, this is what the number is, and this is where the money went. Because there definitely is a partnership here, but I think we definitely have to have better understanding of
And I
this.
agree, we were kind of running late in the process, but I agree if we can have it as part of the budget process to where we're identifying projects that are eligible, that we bring those forward at that time.
So what's in the 2020 budget is $49,950, Angela? And
Yes, sir.
have you identified what that is going to be?
I have some projects that would be eligible. I haven't identified exactly the full 48, but
But it's an action item on your part.
and we'll bring it much earlier in the year too.
So I only have one question. The additional $6,187, does that fit within the purview of what we're able to spend money on, Cameron?
Cameron, you got to get a mic. You got to get a mic.
Yeah, depending on what the money's used for, there's 2 chapters that govern this. They're both 501.152 and 505.152. So they both end in the 152, and those both allow for projects such as any improvement, construction relating to parks, et cetera, infrastructure. So depending on what the nature of that money is used for, it is an allowable expense.
Okay, so if we're being asked to approve something, but we don't yet know if that falls into either one of those, we can't really approve it, can we, tonight? Unless we know that it's actually going towards those? Or
I think let me back up. I think they are asking for 3 projects that total to 72, and he just said these 3 projects fall within those 2 chapters.
Correct. As I've read the invoices and the request for payment, those do fall within those guidelines. Yes.
So
Thank you.
now, moving forward, it's great that we put $49,950 in the budget because that was the scheduled amount, but I would have hoped that the city would have identified their $49,950 as a part of the budget. To your point, Ron, what you're saying is you are willing to spend $49,950 that we approved in our budget long ago, but it has to be eligible projects. So to the point of the action item, I would look for staff that I would expect that to be an agenda item next month that says, this is how we plan on spending, these are the projects we've identified so far or whatever, because we may also find projects that are worthy that, you know, that the money can be, it's BEDC's money. This
Right.
board needs to decide how to spend it. And clearly what we're all speaking around is with, when Denton Navarro became our legal counsel, we got some slightly different advice, and we're wanting to make sure that we are following the letter of the law. That's
Right.
our biggest goal.
That's the whole reason for my question, yeah.
Correct. Mowing does not meet the definition, but fences do. Those meet the, because you're actually installing, you're putting something in. Yes.
Thank you.
And just so I understand, but repairing a fence would not, is that right?
No,
Or
that
repairing
falls
a
under
parking lot?
501, 152. They're under the last subsection of A.
Okay, so you could install new or repair.
13A, yes. Correct. And you can repair sidewalks too if those are part of an original project, yes. Any other questions?
I think my concern is that a set amount was agreed upon, and in hindsight, we received a bill for more. So I think I'm concerned that that would be a precedent moving forward, that certainly I would not think that would be a way to get the best use of our dollars for both, a win-win for both. So we're really at this, I think we know what we need to do moving forward, but I think we do need to decide, are we going to add the additional 61, having not known about that expense coming our way, knowing full well that it really does fit in the category, but it's kind of hindsight, or are we going to stick to the 66,000 that we budgeted and have already paid, I think we have already paid.
Which we also didn't have input as to what that 66 went for. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, let me ask this question. Since if I understand you correctly, we did not give or spend the $83,250 in fiscal year 18. So can we roll that forward and utilize that money? That money's already gone. Okay. So that's not even okay. Just ask.
I could speak. So I guess the question would be if the funds are actually available in the EDC budget this year. I know that there were set-aside funds from the grant that the city was able to obtain. EDC was prepared to pay for the full downtown loop, but didn't have to pay for the full downtown loop because the city applied for a grant and received those funds. And so, if some of that money is available to cover the $6,000.
I think when we did the budget last year, we knew the grant was coming, and we put it in our budget, and then later it was found out that it was going to go to the city. So I'm not sure that that's valid, a valid reason.
It was moved back over to the city budget, correct? Yeah.
The money went
Yeah,
to the
yeah. Oh, yeah.
city, and our budget still recognizes that it was going to be in our money, that we were going to spend it. But also, the revenue also
Right.
recognizes that we were going to have that as our revenue
Right.
in this year's budget.
Okay, so we have two options, maybe even a third. But I mean, to your point, do we set a precedent and go over it? Because if we do that, and it's not like it's a huge amount, but are we setting a precedent to go over it, and then do we continue to follow that precedent, or do we not and just say, go ahead and do it? It's not that much. I mean, that's to me the two discussion points.
Yeah, I agree, Ron. To me, I think it's the precedent is the issue. I would rather not give the 6,187. Just doesn't feel right. It's like, I know you guys didn't, I listened in on Facebook last month, and you guys didn't give the city what they wanted, and it almost looks like they came back and said, well, okay, we're going to go for this now. It just doesn't seem right. So I would say that, you know, we stick with the 66.5 and or whatever the number was, 66.6, and they can, you know, if they have $72,000 worth of expenses, they have $72,000 worth of expenses.
And let me get straight. So going forward, we'll more or less approve a project to come out of this money. We'll know what the project is before they get the money going forward.
I think what we'd like to see is next month we have $49,950 in the budget. What are you going to spend it on?
Okay.
So that no surprise.
Okay.
And then, Sam, would you think that then in fiscal year 21, maybe it's 33, maybe it's a number higher, maybe it's a number lower, but come with the projects that you have planned in advance during our budget process?
This is what we'd like your process to include, budget to include.
And so we budgeted 49, when you prepared the budget for fiscal year 20, you prepared it with 49,950 because the only documentation you had at that time was this memo.
Yep.
And so now they need to come with projects adding up to that. And then in the future, if they bring it in time for our budget preparation, then we may consider a number bigger. But what I hear everybody saying, it's the coming in the after fact that is the issue. Yep. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. So we can put this up for a vote, or we can have someone change the motion to make it like you want. I don't see any reason why we can't just vote on this as it stands. So if somebody'd like to make a motion as it stands, then somebody can make a motion that is a variation of it.
I'd like to make a little variation. I'd like to consider we deny the funding for 6,187 and instruct BED staff to release the 66,600 to the city for those three projects.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those approved
Aye.
and opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. So on 3.7, I believe we're at this point in time, I think what we'll be doing is going into executive session to discuss executive session items, because I believe that's something that we'll be discussing 3.7 on there. So it is 6 o'clock, and we are going to convene into executive session to discuss Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, request from AEI Technologies for final reimbursement, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Section 551.087, deliberation regarding the commercial and financial information received on potential projects, project paint by number 921 Main Street project and project Q-BERT. Section 551.072, deliberation about the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, project paint by number 921 Main Street project and project Q-BERT. And Section 551.074, personnel matters, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee. And the time is now, I guess, 6:01. Okay, the time is, actually, it's not, 7:09, and the BEDC has reconvened. We have no action items coming out of executive session. So we'll move straight on to the EDC staff activities 3.8.
Madam Chair, I'd like to remove item 3.7 from the agenda.
Do I have a second? And all those approve?
Aye.
And opposed? Great, it passes. All right, 3.8.
I think Kevin seconded.
So the past month and a half has been very busy for us when it came to events. Gene attended Retail Live on August 21st. Gene and I also attended a meeting in New Republic Studios regarding film Bastrop on August 27th. We hosted the Best Breakfast at El Nuevo on August 30th. And we also hosted last Thursday the Governor Small Business Workshop at the Convention Center. We had about 83 people in attendance, so it was a full room, and it was a really great event. Commissioner Julian Alvarez was the keynote speaker, and we had about maybe 24 other speakers at the event. 83, I believe, yeah. These are just some of the photos from the event. We also had a small business owner panel to kick the event off. So we had Judith Escovillo, I believe, from Coco, Brenda Abbott from Brenda Abbott Floral Design, Devin, what's her last name, Michalak, from Crosshair? From Crosshair, and also Clint Howard from Deep in the Heart. And those are really well-received panel. Also this month we had the Agnes Street Extension ribbon cutting, and that made the front page of the Bastrop Advertiser. Business recruitment matrix. So far for FY 2019, we've had 28 out-of-region visits and 52 sources of leads. Those are internal leads and external leads combined. For 2019, we've had, for August 2019, we've had 13 total engagements. That includes in-person visits, assistance requests, and workforce development meetings. And last year there were none at this time, so we're well ahead. So advanced manufacturing and general manufacturing are the top two sources of leads that we've been getting, well higher than the other sources of leads: biotech, corporate operations, distribution, IT, and biotech, and tourism. Agnes Street, the road is complete, drainage is complete. The ribbon cutting, like I mentioned, was held on August 22nd. Seaton is scheduled to open on November 12th. 91 Main is in the design phase. Downtown Trail, we're waiting final approval from TxDOT. Construction is expected to commence this month. Technology Drive, we received the interlocal agreement draft. We'll be working with Bastrop County, the city, and the coming weeks. We're continuing to see an upward trend for our website analytics, including people that found our website and come to our website from social media. A lot of that is dependent upon advertising on social. And we have 40 states and 23 countries represented by website visitors in August, and we're excited to see that. So top 5 countries and states with the most visitors, we've added Canada to the list. We had 88 people from Canada visit our website, 16 from India, 6 from South Korea, and 32 from France. That they were not, I believe, on the list last month. And Illinois has greatly jumped as well when it comes to website visits from previous months. Facebook, we're still trending upwards. We have about 424 new Facebook likes from this time last year. This is an MD Anderson wrap up. We have reached, Facebook highlights, sorry. We reached 29,259 people. The earned media value of this is a little over $146,000. Now for the Keeling, it's a social media wrap up for Facebook because that was the main source of our distribution for the video. We had 2,069 clicks, comments, reactions, and shares, 16,564 video views, and earned media value of just over $122,000.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
How much did the Keeling project cost?
The video itself, I believe, was around $7,000. I'll get the exact number from you. I think that was for Joshua and for the person that wrote the film and directed it.
Did you say 7?
Yeah.
Okay, so something less than 10.
Oh yeah, much less. Yeah.
Certainly a good return on our.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And they're using it for recruitment as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dave.
Any questions for Fallon or anything? Okay, thank you. Okay, it looks like we've come to the end of our agenda. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Have a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Those approve? Opposed? Thank you very much. We're finished.